The city of Athens was alive with sound and color. The streets were lined with statues of every god the people could imagine: Zeus, Athena, Apollo, Hermes. Their temples touched the sky, their altars overflowed with flowers, and their marketplaces were full of teachers, thinkers, and dreamers. People gathered in small groups, talking about new ideas, new philosophies, and new gods. To them, knowledge was everything. But even with all their learning, they still felt something missing, something they could not name. One afternoon, a traveler walked into the city. His name was Paul. He was not dressed like a philosopher or a priest. He carried no golden seats. He looked at the statues and idols. There were so many, and each one seemed lifeless, beautiful, but silent. Paul's heart grew heavy. He whispered to himself, "These people are searching for God, but they do not know who He is." Then, as he turned a corner, something caught his eye. It was an altar, plain and small, unlike the others. On it were carved these simple words: "To the unknown God." Paul stopped and stared at it. Tears filled his eyes. "Here He is," Paul said softly. "The God they long for. They know He exists, but they do not know His name." Paul began to speak to people in the marketplace about Jesus and the resurrection. Some listened, curious. Others laughed and said, "What is this man talking about? He seems to bring strange ideas." Soon, they brought him to a great stone hill called the Areopagus, also known as Mars Hill. This was where the wise men of Athens met to discuss deep matters. Around Paul stood poets, teachers, and philosophers, men in long robes with eyes full of questions. One of them spoke, "Paul, we have heard you talk about new gods. Athens loves to learn new things. Tell us, who is this Jesus you speak of?" Paul looked at them with gentle eyes and began to speak. "People of Athens," he said, "I see that you are very religious. As I walked through your city, I found an altar with these words, 'To the unknown God.' You worship Him without knowing who He is, but I have come to tell you about Him." The crowd grew quiet. Even the wind seemed to pause. Paul continued, "This God made the world and everything in it. He is the Lord of heaven and earth. He does not live in temples built by human hands. And He is not served by people as though He needed anything. Instead, He gives life and breath to everyone." The people listened. Paul's words were simple, but they cut deep. He spoke with power, not from pride, but from love. From one man, Paul said, "God made all the nations of the earth. He decided when and where they would live, so that people would seek Him, reach out for Him, and find Him, though He is not far from any of us. For in Him we live and move and have our being." The crowd began to murmur. Some nodded, whispering, "This makes sense." Others frowned. "What nonsense is this?" But Paul wasn't finished. He raised his voice a little. "God now calls everyone everywhere to turn back to Him, because He has set a day when He will judge the world with justice. And He has shown who this judge is by raising Him from the dead." The name of Jesus echoed through the air. Some men laughed loudly. "Raised from the dead? Impossible," they said. Others turned away, shaking their heads. But a few stayed behind. Their hearts were moved. Among them was a wise man named Dionysius and a kind woman named Damaris. They had listened not just with their minds. "We believe. Tell us more about this God, the one who was unknown, but now is known." That evening, as the sun set over the marble city, Paul walked through the streets once more. The idols still stood where they had always been. But now, in the hearts of a few Athenians, a new light had begun to shine. The unknown God was no longer unknown. His name had been spoken. His love had been revealed. And in that great city of knowledge, the greatest truth of all had finally been heard. That God is real, God is near, and His name is Jesus Christ.